Hey guys, this is the German Prodigy, and this is part 4 of my Let's Play Splinter Cell series. This is Defense Ministry. You're basically trying to get on this guy's computer. Basically what goes on in this mission. It leads to the whole wars where you find out that the president has been invading the other country and so on and so forth. So to start out my video, I'd like to talk about Crisis 3. I was really debating on this being the game to try and get a new game, try a new game, and help my YouTube channel out so I can get more views. Figured new game, a lot of people will be, wanting to watch videos of it. Here's the problem with that. It is a Call of Duty style game. Now there is nothing wrong with that, but it is not my style of game. I'm not too big on it at all. I really like the Battlefield style. The larger amount of players, larger maps, more tactical, less arcade style. It's just two different types of first-person shooter, and I really like how Battlefield does it. So I believe I'm just going to stick with Battlefield and get shafted by EA again, and buy premium again for the computer. But that's alright, because I really don't want to be playing Battlefield on my Xbox after I get my PC. I'm really excited about getting my PC, and I've played a little bit of Xbox today, and getting a PC has really started to ruin my whole opinion on getting an Xbox or playing on the Xbox at all. So Battlefield is really what I'm wanting to play, and since I have my PC, I can now play it on that. I watched a few videos of kind of people that were switching between console and PCs, and people who were for this and against that. And I think a lot of it's going to change when the next generation consoles come out. PS4 was just announced, well, unofficially announced, I suppose. I think February 20th is supposed to be the official announcement of it. But with next generation consoles, I'm really curious to see how they compare to modern computers. Not just on a graphical level, but the main thing that computers have over consoles is, well, it can be a plus and a minus, but consoles are meant for gaming, and you can't do much more. There is a browser for both Xbox and PlayStation. They both have browsers now, but it's not, it sucks. It really does. I even have a lot of trouble just watching YouTube on my Xbox, and it's not really a internet connection problem. It's more of it just seems like the Xbox can't handle it. But with the new generation consoles coming out, things could change a lot. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be controller based. A lot of people, I had heard somebody say that they don't understand how a mouse and keyboard can be more natural than a joystick. So I kind of wanted to touch on the difference between gaming with a controller and gaming with a keyboard and mouse. There are quite a few PC players who still prefer the controller, which with Windows, if you're gaming, you're most likely going to be running Windows. So with that in mind, you can plug in an Xbox controller into Windows, and it's pretty much automatically set up. It's really basic. But I want to talk about why I think a mouse and keyboard is not just more natural, but better. Most console gamers seem to think that a controller is more adapted for gaming, and I don't find this to be true. It would certainly seem like it, especially if you're not a very big PC gamer, and if you've been on the controller for a while. Even if you have played games on PC here and there, controller can feel a lot more natural and a lot more better without the experience of being able to use a keyboard and mouse on a regular basis for gaming. When I started using mouse and keyboard a lot, it was really, once I got used to it and got the hang of it, it did feel much more natural. And like with playing my Xbox today, I mean, I don't have a gaming mouse by any means. It's a very basic, very old mouse actually. It is an optical mouse, it's not the old trackball mouse, but it is a very old mouse. It's not meant for gaming, but even still with that, the level of accuracy, precision, and speed that the mouse offers over a joystick is unbelievable. The problem with joysticks is they're slow and they're sluggish, and it depends on how far you're moving the joystick, and it's really hard to explain. But with a mouse, if you want to point at something, it's very easy to point directly at that. The worst thing about this, if you're just switching from console, is it's very difficult to be accurate with a mouse. But after using it for a little while, it really does help. It's 10 times better. So I'm really excited to get on the keyboard and mouse. That is one nice thing about PCs over consoles. Let's use, a PC versus an Xbox at the moment. PCs you can plug in controllers to a PC. You cannot plug in a mouse and keyboard to an Xbox and use that instead. Now, what really amazes me is that controllers are not more adapted for gaming. And the reason I say this is for the keyboard mainly. So let's compare the keyboard to the buttons on a Xbox or PlayStation controller. Now, the biggest differences you have here is a console controller. All the buttons are going to be right there. You don't have to. It's not going to be hard to access a button at any point in time. And with a keyboard, you can have that problem with having to lift up your hand to press this button or that button, which it's another thing that just comes with time. You become faster and more adapted, and you can really get used to your movement keys and where they are and be able to transition very quickly. However, the console controllers are very lacking in the amount of buttons. If you take Battlefield, for example, just one aspect, the spotting tool. So on Xbox, to spot, you press the back button. Unfortunately, the back button also relays to the scoreboard. And a lot of times when I have been playing Battlefield and tried to spot someone, I accidentally pull up the scoreboard from pressing the back button for too long instead of spotting them. It's also, you can tell exactly what you're spotting on a keyboard. Interface devices, it's a lot easier to be able to select what you want. For example, in Skyrim, it's a lot easier than using directions up down. You can select exactly where you want to go. So keyboard and mouse may be more complicated and take longer to get used to than playing on a controller, but overall it is better with the experience. More about Splinter Cell, this particular mission. This mission is not the most exciting mission by any means. There's a little few tough spots that are kind of fun once you learn little tricks of what to do. I'll use an example here coming up, but it still really hasn't kicked off the nice diverse part that is Splinter Cell that you get right away in the other games. It's still a beginning mission, and it's not quite my least favorite. My least favorite is definitely the next mission on the oil rig. It's just completely different from all the other missions, and it really sucks. I hate it. But I think they could have done a lot better with this game if they would have tried to do better at first for the game to help players have a little bit more fun. But you have such little gadgets and things, and it's really not as fun as it could be as the later missions are. I guess again I would be talking about the F2000, which is such a crucial part of playing the game. I'm really surprised they didn't have it. You know, maybe the first mission is okay, but starting later on, it's really, I think it would be really important that they add that in. I don't know why they didn't. Let's see here. I still have quite a while to talk, and it's late, and I'm exhausted, so I'm kind of running out of things to talk about. This particular part right here really confused me. I expected the light turning on and off in the cooler would at least distract somebody in there, but obviously it didn't. It's really aggravating. But I guess for a little while I will talk about the particular my setup that I will be running on my PC. I still haven't decided whether or not to go with Fraps or Bandicam. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with Fraps because it seems not to take as much hit on your frames per second, which shouldn't be a huge problem on my computer. However, I just don't want to have that problem. I want to be able to run at 60 frames per second while I am recording. It should be really, really nice. However, the larger file size is going to be a problem, especially since I will have an SSD, but it's mainly only going to be for running Fraps, my games, and my operating system. So all of my videos, of course, are going to be going on to a 1 terabyte hard drive, which will get filled up really quick, which means I'm going to have to delete my videos quite often, which I really don't want to do, but I don't want to spend any more on extra hard drives, which would be nice. I was going to get a 2 terabyte hard drive. I decided not to go with it, but right now I am getting the Caviar Blue Western Digital 1 terabyte hard drive. For my processor, I am going with the AMD 6300, which may change to the FX 8350, but the 6300 will be able to pull anything I need right now. But the 8350 is a far superior processor. I did debate going with the Phenom 2, which is one of the highest recommended gaming processors from FX. The only problem is it is very old and it does show. So I kind of went with the middle ground with a 6300, a newer, better processor that may not be the best, but it will work, and it will work just fine. So the reason I went with AMD instead of Intel, I do realize that especially for gaming, that Intel processors are better. I'm not going to try and play any sort of tricks and try and convince everyone that an AMD processor is better than an Intel processor. There are situations where it is, but at the end of the day, Intel is better than AMD. So the reason I decided not to go with Intel is a lot because of their past, which may not be a big deal to too many people, but for me it is a big deal when Intel has such a shady past, which can happen with anyone, but that was my biggest decision maker in going with AMD, is just because the past that Intel has. They're more mainstream. They are more expensive, but when that isn't too big of an obstacle for me right now. I'm pretty much getting exactly what I want, and if I wanted to get an Intel processor, I would have the money to do it. But I am sticking with AMD again because of Intel's past, which I really don't want to get into. I'm sure you can Google it if you are curious about what Intel has done. But so for my graphics card, I am getting a Radeon HD 7950. I've been back and forth about which exact one to get, which I'm probably getting the HIS IQ right now, but that could change. They're pretty much all around the same general price for the non-overclocked graphics cards. I went with an AMD graphics card, not because Nvidia has any sort. I have nothing against Nvidia, but it's a lot easier to get a AMD GPU than it is an Nvidia GPU when you have a AMD processor. So for my motherboard, I am getting an M5A97X. Is the 990FX processor by Asus, and I went with an Asus simply because of the name. There were other options like a Gigabyte. The biggest reason that I chose Asus, the Pro motherboard, was because it had the UEFI BIOS, and since I am new to overclocking, I believe that will be a lot better for me to have an easier BIOS for newer users. I realize that some older PC users like the standard BIOS a lot better, but I am not an older PC user and I am not used to the old BIOS. So therefore, I did decide to go with the Asus processor for that reason. This particular part up here, I had some difficulties with recording. I record over my time limit for my little free version of Bandicam, and for some reason I thought I had recorded the rest of this part, but I did not, unfortunately. There's really nice part up here that I did. It was, I had to do some quick thinking, and I was kind of getting surrounded, and I just happened to make it. It was actually really cool. So for my computer case, I decided to go with the NZXT Phantom 410. I would have gotten the larger case Phantom, which I actually could have paid the same exact price for the full tower. However, there was some difficulty with the desk I am using and buying that case because it's just too large. The mid tower is actually too large too, but it's reduced in size a little bit, so it can fit in the area I have for it a little bit better. I do have 3 kids, so it does kind of have to be in a corner. It's where it's harder for them to tip over or anything like that. I'm actually maxing out the amount of fans it does, which it's either 7 or 8, so I don't think cooling is going to be a problem. My laptop overheats like it's crazy, so I really didn't want to have a problem with cooling. I don't, since I'm new to PCs, I decided not to go with water cooling, simply because it'd be so much easier for me just to have fans. Water cooling is something I could look into in the future, but right now it's not really, I'm not too worried about it, and with that many fans, my case should stay quite cool. Let's see here. I did decide to get a Blu-ray drive, even though I have no Blu-ray DVDs. I do not have a Blu-ray player. I have never done anything Blu-ray. It was just a little extra that I decided to spend an extra. It cost me about an extra $30 to switch from a standard DVD drive to a Blu-ray drive, which was really nice. I cannot remember the particular power supply I got, but a good hint for power supplies, I had a friend show me a website. It's actually a part of the Guild Wars 2 forums, and I'm pretty sure if you just Google Guild Wars 2 power supply, you will be able to find it. And this particular individual did his research and researched all the internal components of power supplies and basically made a complete list of all the power supplies that looked decent. Decent in lasting longer, I suppose, is the biggest thing to point out. So I basically went off that list, and I believe I got a 750 watt power supply. I believe it is 80 plus bronze certified, and it is semi-modular, which was a really big deal to me. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of wires sticking out of my case. I do have a side panel window, so I didn't want just a whole bunch of wires sticking out if anyone decided to look inside of it. What else do we have? RAM. My RAM has changed so many times, I don't even know what it is anymore. I've been back and forth about whether or not to run 1866 RAM or 2133. But, so I'm not quite sure. Like I said, I did go with an SSD, which is a 128 gigabyte SSD. I believe it is by Crucial. That recently changed, so I don't remember the exact one, but I basically just wanted to make sure I had a SATA 3 6 gigabytes per second connection, which it does have, and I am going to be running with Windows 8 operating system. I have heard some bad things about Windows 8, but I kind of got reassured that it would be a fine operating system. It just takes some getting used to, which should be fine. I've tried I've tried Mac's operating system, and I absolutely hate it. I hate the one mouse button click crap. I haven't tried a more recent version, but I did try it a little while ago, an older version, and I could not stand it. And maybe it is just one of those things of getting used to, but it's not for me. And besides Mac's Leopard and stuff like that, it just, your usability for games is not very diverse, not near as much as Windows. Windows is what you want to stick with. So I can't think of too much more. I'm actually getting free antivirus software. It's actually through my bank. It's offered for free, so that was pretty neat. What else? I feel like I'm missing something. I just can't think of what it is. Oh, keyboard, mouse, monitor, things like that. Monitor is another Asus product. I believe it is a 21.5 inch monitor. It's one of their few IPS panels. It is least on the cheaper side. And I kind of got convinced by my friend. He's helping me build my PC. He's built many. And he kind of referenced me that I should probably look into getting an IPS panel. And after doing research and going back and forth, I decided to go ahead and go with the IPS panel. So I don't remember the exact model number, but it is an IPS panel, so hopefully I'll get a really clear, really good picture for that. Keyboard, I believe is called the Microsoft Sidewinder X4. It is one of the highest rated keyboards. It is a gaming keyboard. It's not a very advanced gaming keyboard, but it is a very nice keyboard. It has some of the best reviews out there, and I wasn't really looking into getting an extremely expensive, heavy gaming computer. Excuse me. The mouse, I believe, is a Razer. Oh, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's a simple gaming mouse. Nothing too flashy or expensive. I didn't want to go too big on it, some things I definitely wanted to cut to make sure I could get things like a 7950 graphics card, which is quite expensive. And my headset, I decided to go with a Turtle Beach C11. I have had Turtle Beaches a lot for my Xboxes, and unfortunately I don't have one now, or it would make buying a headset useless. But since I have had good experiences with Turtle Beaches, I decided to stick with them. Anyways, that's it for this one, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Let's Play, and I will try and post another video soon. I hope you enjoyed it.